Luke, I want you to listen to what Patrick Mahomes had to say to Josh Allen during their post-game handshake.
Loudest call I've ever seen, man. Offensive offsides in that moment, man. Terrible.
Like, what's Josh Allen supposed to say? Yeah, you're right, but I am happy we won the game.
I mean, no doubt.
So, legitimate gripe on the Kadarius Toney offside?
Yes. But let's start. It's a legitimate gripe for the Chiefs, and we'll get to that. But, Jay, I just want to put it out there for the people. I've lined up on the ball as a receiver hundreds, maybe thousands of times in my life. It's not that hard.
Right.
You look at the ball, you maybe take half a yard off, and you point at the official. It's really not that challenging. So, yes, the gripe is legitimate, which I'll get into in a sec. But are you kidding me? You can't get lined up on side, and even if it's not like you're stuck in that position. This isn't the Squid Games challenge, okay? Once you line up and you look in and you say, hey, I might be close, you can move back.
Right.
You're not stuck there.
Yeah.
So my first finger pointing goes right at Kadarius Toney. It's not that difficult to be lined up onside.
His foot is clearly ahead of the football.
Correct.
Like, very clearly ahead. So I understand the official's point too,
yes,
right?
The griping comes in, and a lot of fans don't realize this, but there's all sorts of chatter every play on whether or not you're onside.
Right.
So, again, if I'm heading up to the line of scrimmage, I go. Sometimes I'll actually physically look at the ref. Let's say, the ref's here, ball's over there. A lot of times you just point, and the ref will say, hey, back up a little bit.
Right.
Hey, move up. You generally move up when you're a wide receiver because you don't start over the ball.
Right.
That's a pretty easy one not to get wrong.
And yet he did.
So, and I get to where if it's close, a lot of times the referees will go to the sideline and say, hey, and it's more so for offensive linemen, just a heads up, get this guy to move up on the line of scrimmage, or next time I'm going to call it.
Right.
So I do get why they're griping, but let's just bring it back. It's not hard to get lined up on the ball. It's not.
Well said by you. Let's look at the AFC playoff picture, because now things have gotten very interesting, not just for the Bills, but for the Kansas City Chiefs, Luke. I mean, the Bills joined a cluster of teams at 7-6. However, we know about the schedule. The Cowboys next week. They've still got the Dolphins. Now, the Chiefs, they were looking at that number one seed in the AFC. Those hopes have taken a serious hit.
Gone.
They're 2 games back of the Ravens now. Yeah. And, and Miami can get back into the picture. So are you ready to, given how many teams are still in front of them, are you almost ready to write off this Chiefs attempt at not only number one, but even the season in general?
One, I would say, is out of the picture now.
Yeah.
I think Miami or Baltimore will lock that down in the near future. But the season, absolutely not. This team is still very good. And you look at what happened tonight, and hats off to the Bills, hats off to Josh Allen. But the Chiefs play sloppy football offensively. I mean, you saw drops. You saw pre-snap penalties. I'm not even talking about the Kadarius Toney situation. You saw bad turnovers. And the strange one that happens week in and week out is that there's numerous times where Mahomes throws the football. We're about to watch one right here, expecting a receiver to sit down or kind of adjust his route, and they're just on different pages. So do I think that this season is a write-off for the Chiefs? Absolutely not. I still think they have the talent, but they need to clean this up. It's week in and week out.
Yeah.
And I do feel like part of the frustration with Patrick Mahomes in the post-game interviews is this guy has done everything for this offense. I mean, even tonight, he somehow finds a magical way to basically take the lead under 2 minutes, and it's either penalties or drops. His team is letting him down.
Right. Now, what about the Bills? Still confident they can make the playoffs?
Confident. I'm beyond confident.
Yeah, baby. Here we go, Mafia.
We all know that I don't really love Bills Mafia here. But
well, you have a love-hate relationship.
Love-hate, agreed. They got to win tough games. But you look at the teams in front of them and look at all the issues. I mean, the Browns, I know he played well today, but Joe Flacco is leading that team. You look at the Steelers, that offense is an abomination. I'm not sure who's playing quarterback this week.
Right.
Could be Mason Rudolph. Gardner Minshew's running the Colts. C.J. Stroud was hurt today for the Texans. I still think that the Broncos are in dire need of being able to throw the ball consistently down the field, although they've won some games lately.
Yep.
So it's not like, hey, any of these teams are going to run the table. I think, honestly, if the Bills can find a way to win 3 of the last 4, which I think they can, they're going to be in the playoffs.
And maybe they would get in on a roll, right? Playing pretty good football. It sounds like you're a believer in the Cowboys.
I really am. I mean, this team is extremely, extremely talented.
Yeah.
Offensively, I think Dak Prescott is playing at an MVP level. Other than the one play today, I mean, he's dynamic. He's using his arm to make plays. If he has to, he's extending plays with his feet. He is the man right now. And he hasn't really been turning the ball over as far as interceptions go. We saw the fumble. I think he'll clean that up. And again, you talked about it. CeeDee Lamb is the main guy. But what do you consistently see now? You see Brandon Cooks. You see Ferguson. Even late in the game, the throw to Gallup where he kept his feet in was incredible. Dak Prescott is playing at the most consistent and highest level that I've ever seen him play in this league. And you got to give a shout out to Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
We were all dogging him. They got rid of Kellen Moore. Certainly looks smart right now.
Yep.
And defensively, they play very, very tough football, and they create turnovers. That's Dan Quinn's staple. Plus, you got Micah Parsons, who's a menace up front. This team is the real deal.
And McCarthy coming off surgery, like pancreatitis or something like that. So, yeah, everybody.
Adversity.
Right? He's overcoming adversity. And now they're first in the NFC East. Eagles had a chance to just win out and be first in the NFC East. Instead, for the second straight week, they get blown out by another NFC star. 4 more games to get ready for the playoffs. How worried are you about this Eagles team?
Well, the 4 games coming up, a pretty easy schedule. I don't think they play one team that's above 500. But I get worried because I think they've completely lost their identity. I mean, they have this elite offensive line. They have an elite runner in DeAndre Swift. And they don't go to him in the first half. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're down 24-6 at the half. Let's run the football. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what exactly is being, said or taught or the game plan. But these first halves have been very, very bad, even during their win streak. So I get nervous about that. And then I also am very nervous about this defense because they have consistently not been able to stop the pass. In the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've been brutal against the run. So now they can't stop anybody. They can't really move the ball like they would like to be doing. So it is cause for concern if you're an Eagles fan. But I still do believe at my core that they will figure it out. This is a veteran team. They've been to the Super Bowl. I do think that they will clean their football up. I just figured after getting punched in the mouth last week by the 49ers that they would come up and put a fight. Offensively, they scored 6 points.
Collinsworth said it throughout the broadcast. They looked lackluster. They looked like they were tired almost.
Very strange.
Sometimes those suburban honky-tonks in Dallas can get to you. We talked about it last week, though. We got to talk about these Detroit Lions. How do you lose to this Chicago Bears team? We talked about it. If Detroit doesn't score 30 points, they don't win games. Well, they kind of proved that on Sunday.
Yeah, it's very tough if you're a Lions fan right now because it seems like your team has actually regressed as the season's gone on.
Yeah.
You preach this kind of attitude of toughness and physicality, and what has happened to that? Defensively, it's an abomination out there. Don't be confused. This is not an electric offense in the Bears. And they were scoring at will at some points today. And offensively, you're turning the ball over. The run game was subpar, and you didn't throw the ball well. And the issue I have here is that the Lions have the ability to be a team that can make a playoff run, but they're not playing well enough on offense, and they're playing horrible on defense. The only fun part for me personally, this is just for me, is that I really believe that somehow, some way, Matthew Stafford will be going to Ford Field in the playoffs and will throw for 450 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns and set the Lions franchise back maybe 100 years. Who knows? But that's for me personally. I didn't want to go on too much of a personal rant, but that was it.
Haven't they suffered enough, Luke? Haven't these Lions suffered enough? Hey, by the way, just for some context, so we saw the Niners long snapper with the sign language to DK.
Ridiculous.
So DK has been learning sign language as a hobby. It's kind of a cool thing. A lot of people are now saying that sign language from the long snapper is completely wrong. If you're going to trash talk someone with sign language, you should probably know sign language.
Yeah, but this kind of goes to the just general underlying, fact here that most long snappers in the NFL, and I don't want to be too rude, but they're absolute clowns. And you see it here. If you're a long snapper, you do not talk smack to DK Metcalf. You snap the football. You maybe pray that you have 2 to 3 tackles per year. That's like a great year for you guys.
Yeah, right.
You don't get to talk smack. But for some reason, he thinks that he has that ability, which is very, very strange. If I were a veteran in the San Fran locker room, I would probably be like, hey, boss, we're going to have to answer this call, whether it's next year, whether it's the year after.
Oh, DK's not going to forget.
Correct. And you're not going to be the one who's going to have to, again, when whom the bell tolls here, it's not going to be the long snapper.
So I hope all you long snappers are listening.